Du Fu, a second farewell to Governor Jiang Wu at Fengji Post Station. We have come far together, but here we must part. The green hills echo my feelings in vain. When will we again take wine cups in hand, to stroll as we did beneath last night's moon? Every district sings sad songs at your leaving. 3 reigns now you have served with distinction. Now I must go back to my river village alone, and alone live out the rest of my days. So we continue with Du Fu's pentasyllabic regulated poems, and we are also continuing in the chronological sequence represented by the previous poems we've been reading. So we've traveled from the capital, Chang'an, under rebel occupation. After that we went to the west, to the northwestern limits of the empire, and after that, this was about the year 759, 60, probably a bit later, 760 something, Du Fu made his way to the region of Shu. If you will remember, Shu is the region in the extreme west of China, cordoned off by mountains. Its main city is Chengdu, and that was where the emperor himself, Tang Xuanzong, had tried to take refuge when the An Lushan rebellion broke out and took the Tang imperial capitals. Why was Du Fu going to this area? Well, he was basically going to this area because of Jiang Wu, the governor who appears in the title of this poem and to whom this poem is dedicated. Now, we've talked a lot about Du Fu not having passed the examinations. Tang society, even if you pass the examinations, generally required a great deal of patronage to be able to progress and succeed in the courtly world. And Du Fu was partially successful with patrons. His first most important patron was the Grand Marshal Fang, of whom we will learn more in the next poem. But when this patron died, he took himself to the mercy of Governor Jiang Wu. Jiang Wu had been a subordinate of Marshal Fang, and at this time he was the military governor of the region of Shu. So that's where Du Fu went. He had a small hut there, and he was generally protected and well treated by this Governor Jiang Wu. At the time of this poem's writing, Jiang Wu has to go out of his province for some reason or other. Perhaps he has been called to the capital, or he has been named for a position in the central government or somewhere else. And as he is going away, Du Fu is accompanying him. So this is a poem about parting, evidently. Like many other Chinese poems we've encountered, this is a poem about separation between friends and scholar officials. It's also about secondary topics would be the worth of the person who is going away, which is, extolled in the poem. And what else could we say? The sadness and the loneliness of Du Fu. So these last 2 subtopics, they might be rhetorically exaggerated in this poem. I mean, Jiang Wu was a patron of Du Fu, but from what I've read in other places, it wasn't a completely smooth relationship. And anyway, Du Fu wasn't, as the poem seems to imply, completely left alone in his hut in Shu. I mean, he had his family with him, and we might in a few other scholar officials. But anyway, those would be the main sub-themes of the poem, and part of a tradition and, if you will, of a convention of talking like this in poems. So we might imagine that the farewell party has taken place the night before. The poem seems to imply that. Jiang Wu has gone off, and Du Fu has accompanied him a stretch of the way, perhaps the first 50 or 100 miles, until the Fengji post station of the title. There is when this poem is composed, impromptu, I imagine, or perhaps Du Fu had already been preparing it. Let's take a look at the poem couplet by couplet, as we usually do. We have come far together, but here we must part. The green hills echo my feelings in vain. So the first couplet introduces us the scene. This is the moment of parting, the definite moment of parting. Du Fu explains that now he has to go, and he explains that he feels desolate. The feelings, at least the conventional feelings that would be expected of the situation, would be sadness at the separation from a friend. And I don't quite get the second line. So the green hills echo my feelings in vain. Why do the green hills echo his feelings? His feelings must be sad. So I imagine what is meant is that the hills transmit a feeling of sadness. We have no indication of the season in this poem, but perhaps it is autumn. We might imagine that the hills in autumn, with the stereotypical associations of autumn with sadness, might be echoing the poet's sad and forlorn mood. But then again, the hills are described as green, so it might be spring, in which case the joyful renewal of spring wouldn't be echoing, it would be contradicting or contrasting with Du Fu's feelings. But anyway, the main idea is still that, in this background of green hills and nature, my sadness feels intensified and is perhaps enhanced or echoed or reflected by the natural sights we are seeing. Next couplet, which is the first of the parallelistic ones. When will we again take wine cups in hand to stroll as we did beneath last night's moon? So from the background and the situation, we jump in the second couplet to a nostalgic recreation of the time together. Not a long time ago. It's actually rememorating last night's party of moon viewing and wine drinking. Yeah. Of course, it's a rhetorical question. Du Fu does not know if he will see Jiang Wu again, if ever. It might not be impossible. He might come back to the province. But anyway, it's not an empty question to ask. When will we be able to again enjoy the pleasures of scholar officials, each other's company, drinking, talking, gazing at the moon and the stars? Who knows? Perhaps sometime, perhaps never. Third couplet. This is also a parallelistic couplet. Every district sings sad songs at your leaving. 3 reigns now you have served with distinction. So the third couplet is an unmitigated example of flattering praise for Governor Jiang Wu. He is supposed to be so loved in the areas of Shu which he governs, that all the people in every district, they are singing sad songs at him going away. And he says, not only do the people praise you, but you've served for a long time 3 different kings or emperors, and with distinction. And you've served them with a good reputation. So you're a great man. It makes sense that you will be missed, not only by me, but by all the people here, and that you're appreciated not only by me, but also by the emperors, by different emperors. Finally, the conclusion takes us from Jiang Wu back to Du Fu. What is going to happen to him now that his patron is going away, perhaps forever? Now I must go back to my river village alone, and alone live out the rest of my days. So Du Fu lived in a small hut in the outskirts of the capital of Shu, of Chengdu. The hut is still preserved. If you ever go to Chengdu in China, you can visit the hut, where there is a bronze statue now of Du Fu in the middle of it. So he lived, the retired life of a gentleman scholar official. And, he would have felt lonely even if he had visitors there, because after all, he was far away from the court and the cultured society of other scholar officials, which was so valued, almost more than their own lives, by the members of this elite than anything else. That's why they loathed being posted, even as governors, to provinces, because it meant going away from the gilded culture, world, and companionship of Chang'an. Du Fu, whether sincerely or a bit hyperbolically, underscores the fact that now, without his protector, he will remain even more lonely, even more exposed and weak than ever again. So the poem ends in, quite a dark note. Quite a dark note. And we know Du Fu, after his patron goes away, will not stay for long in the region of Shu. He will keep on moving through different areas of China, basically through the Yangtze River, for the remainder of his life.